Sean Reap. I am the food service manager for Youth for Tomorrow.
Sean, as someone who attended Youth for Tomorrow and now are a staffer here, what is special about this campus for the kids that are here?
I think it would be that a lot of the staff really care and they have a devotion to the program and to helping kids that you really don't see very often.
And tell us a little bit about your story. Where'd you grow up and what brought you to Youth for Tomorrow?
I grew up in Arlington, Virginia, and I had problems with school, truant, family issues. Got into trouble enough times that the choices were military boarding school or here. And I ended up at Youth for Tomorrow.
What were your initial impressions once you arrived, how this location might help you, or did you have questions if it would help you?
I think it did. I think initially, as soon as I got here, I knew it would help me. It was isolated. It was a quiet place to be, and allowed me to kind of get away from some of the things that were causing the negative situations I was in.
The fact that Youth for Tomorrow teaches godly principles, was that something that was impressed upon you when you first got here?
I mean, at the time, you don't really think about it too much, especially when you're being placed here and you don't have too many options. But I think because of those principles, it really dictates the way they interact with kids and the way they go above and beyond.
Do you have any staffers here that you look back when you were here and say, well, this person is a special person to me? Everyone here is special, but is there anyone you want to identify as being such?
Oh, there's a couple. Some of the house parents that worked on campus. The Demerits were one of my house parents. And there were a lot of people. Gene Jones did a lot. Like I don't want to miss anyone, but there's honestly a lot of people that I know went above and beyond.
Was there any times along your path, your journey, that once you were here, that you felt that this was a place that that you wanted to stay and really knew that this would really help you in your next step of your journey?
Once I graduated, you mean?
No, while you were here. While you were here. When did you realize that this was special for you?
It really kind of started to sink in, I guess, just before graduation. Like once you realize, you're leaving and you're going back out into the quote unquote real world, you start to really reflect on it and focus on what's going to be different. I guess that's when it's really impressed upon you how special this place is.
And upon graduation, give us a feel for what some of the next chapters were for you.
Well, I worked a summer job as a teacher's aide doing carpentry, then went off to college. And once I got back from that, I ended up working at Giant for a bit while I was trying to figure out my next step. But then I got a call out of the blue kind of and saying, hey, Miss Phyllis really needs help. Can you help out? And that's kind of how I started here.
When you returned, how did you feel? When you came back and you started working here, how did it feel? I mean, because you're kind of coming home.
Yeah, it's a little weird because at the time, I think there was still like one or two kids here that had been here when I was a kid. Or when I was a resident, I guess I should say. But you already kind of know what's expected, and just trying to be an example, I guess, and do your best to fulfill your obligation.
You've had a couple different jobs here, and now you're the manager of food service. How do you like what you do? And you interact with a lot of people on a day-to-day basis here, don't you?
I do, yeah. I enjoy it. It can be a challenge, but I like what I do.
When you look at some of these kids here, do you ever see yourself in them?
I do, yes. Especially when you can tell they're trying to figure out what they're doing, or they also have, just not anger, but frustration with their situation. Like you can definitely empathize with them.
Do you ever feel yourself giving them advice in any way along the way? Do people reach out to you knowing what you had gone through and look at you as a bit of a mentor, to be honest?
And I mean, not too often nowadays, but We've had some kids that did, yeah. When we had the vocational training, in our vocational training program, we'd have kids that would work in the kitchen, and we teach them life skills and hopefully job skills as well that they could take out with them. And we, try to impart some life advice along the way.
If you now as a mature man, if you were to be asked by a parent who might have a child similar to you at the time when you were going through what you were going through, what advice would you give them? What would you tell them about Youth for Tomorrow that's special for their child?
I would tell them that the programs here can and do make a difference, that they know that they can trust that the staff will be focused on helping their child. One of the things that's impressive to me is how YFT works with not just the kids, but also the families in trying to mend those relationships so that it's not just separating them from the problem, but trying to heal any damage in the family so that when they leave here, there's a healthy and repaired relationship between the two.
I want to ask you, when you went to West Virginia University and then you returned here and you got your work going, you got your work life going, and now you're in a very responsible position here. Do you look back on any aspects of your time here, the lessons that you might have learned here that even to this day kind of resonate with you?
I can't think of anything specific because there's a lot of things you learn. And one of them, for me, I guess, is learning how to deal with not being in control, I guess, which, doesn't sound like an ideal lesson, but it does help you kind of cope with, stresses and, living around a lot of people. It helps with, once you get out of here, you can cope with almost anything.
Finally, now that you're here and you're working here, describe your sense of pride in being in this location. I find that a lot of the folks here that are on the staff, obviously very prideful people. You're in a unique position because you passed through the program,
Yeah.
and now you're part of the same staff that maybe you never thought you'd be in that position, but you are. So maybe talk about your sense of pride a little bit.
I don't know if I'd use the term pride, although perhaps I should. But I am proud of the things I've achieved and the lessons I've learned. But I'm more proud of the work everyone does together and like the environment that we create. And that hopefully it continues to be a positive environment for the kids and staff.